Hey, this is Austin from Grow My Ads. In my last video, I showed you how to set up a standard shopping campaign. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how to optimize standard shopping campaigns. I've got a lot of good value here for you to get maximum performance out of your campaigns. I even have some advanced stuff like query sculpting that I'm gonna show you step-by-step inside of a real account. So hopefully you get some golden nuggets from this. Hopefully you make lots of money implementing some of these recommendations. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, number one optimization, in my opinion, actually doesn't even start with the shopping campaign itself. It starts with your product feed. And a lot of e-commerce companies out there who are running ads seem to neglect their shopping feed. And so there's a lot of optimizations that can be made within the shopping feed that can give you great performance boosts without even touching your campaign. You're on the back end inside a Merchant Center working within your shopping feed. So the number one optimization that I'm starting with usually is looking at the product feed and making feed optimizations. I have here just some of the top ones, the biggest needle movers. It's going to be price, title optimization, adding the G10, image, description, and category. Now, lucky for you, product feed optimization is a massive topic. However, I've already created an entire Google Ads shopping feed cheat sheet, and I have an entire YouTube video already done on shopping feed optimization. So that will be in the description below if you want to go further into optimizing your feed and what you should be doing in order to get maximum performance out of your shopping feed. But shopping feed to me is the first place to be looking when I'm looking at getting maximum performance out of my Google shopping campaigns. All right, campaign structure. Campaign structure is key to getting maximized performance from shopping ads. Why? Because normally the goal is going to be maximizing your best sellers. Can't tell you how many audits I've done, and then I look at their shopping campaigns and they're limited by budget and their top sellers are mingled in there with thousands of other SKUs. And you look at the data and you're like, hey, these products or product categories generated 80% of your revenue, yet they're limited in their exposure due to the fact they're in a campaign mixed with everything else that's limited by budget. So structure allows you to strategize and get maximum exposure and performance from your best sellers. There are several ways of doing campaign structure segmentations. It really is going to depend on your store, how many SKUs you have, how many brands you sell, do you have top sellers that make up, X% of your revenue or not? Do you have different margins for different products or product categories? So this isn't something that, hey, here's the best practice for every single e-commerce store out there running shopping ads on Google. This is something you really do have to sit down and think about. What are our products? What are our brands? What are our top sellers? What are our margins? And how do we want to structure our advertising campaigns based off of that information? So structure will depend on size of account a lot of times, and then the SKUs, size meaning ad spend. So for lots of SKUs and brands, normally what I look at doing, and I've seen companies that have 1 million SKUs in their product feed, that gets obviously overwhelming. But I'm still looking at, all right, what are your top brands? What are your top product categories for these massive feeds, massive amount of SKUs that they have? Because I don't want 5,000 different campaigns. That doesn't make any sense. I still want to consolidate as much as possible. So in those cases, I'm further into segmentation and going more granular when it comes to my top brands or categories. Again, this is for a case of lots and lots of SKUs, huge accounts. Then the rest of those, I'm usually lumping them in tiers based off of performance or how we, have insights on the back end sales of them. So that those tiers could be for categories or brands or a mixture. But those I may, let's say, hey, these are low volume sellers for us by brand, or even category, then fine, I'll lump all of those into one campaign to get things going. For middle of the pack, I'll do something similar. And then again, my top selling product categories, I may do a complete segmentation for those along with the brands. For smaller spenders, I like to keep things super simple. So there, I like to focus on my top sellers, and then usually I group everything else into a catch-all campaign. There's no need for going too crazy for small spending accounts or small SKU size. So again, the goal is to maximize your best sellers, and structure will help make that happen. But what else can make sense to segment campaigns, right? So I've already talked about best sellers. I've already kind of talked about product categories or brands. So let's say, you're Best Buy and you sell TVs, and maybe you want to lump your TVs into different campaigns based off brand because your margins are different on those brands. So in that case, you might have a Samsung TV shopping campaign, and then you'll have a LG TV shopping campaign. And inside of those campaigns, then you would have your different ad groups based off of the LG or Samsung TVs that you sell. So you can go based off that. You could go based off brand specific as well. And so maybe you just have a Samsung campaign, and there your product, hey, I have my TVs in one ad group, and then I have my appliances in another ad group. So there is, again, not one size fits all. It really is going to depend on your store and your brands and product categories. But ideally, when you're thinking about the strategy of the segmentation of your campaigns, you should be looking at, how am I going to be maximizing what I know is going to sell best for us? And if you've never ran ads before, you just need to use your back end numbers. What sells the best for us on the back end? That's what you should be looking at in regards to pushing in the beginning inside of your shopping campaigns. You can also start segmenting on sale products versus products that aren't on sale. So if you know you're going to have a lot of products that are on sale, you could split those out into their own campaign and push them heavier than you would your products that aren't on sale. New products, so new products you don't know how well they're going to do, and maybe you want to get them a little extra love and push more aggressively in the beginning, so you could split out by new products. Seasonal products, Halloween's coming up. Maybe you want to segment out any clothing that could be related to costumes into its own campaign and push heavier there. Maybe you have different bidding goals that you have then for pushing those seasonal products. So there's always a use case there depending on season. Zombies just means zero-click products. So over time, when you're reviewing the data of your shopping campaigns, there will be products that just don't get any love from Google. So these we call zombies. Well, what I like to do with zombies is put them into a zombie standard shopping campaign and only bid on those products inside of that campaign. That way, there's nothing else there that the bidding can steer off to, because especially if you're using smart bidding, it's going to start favoring certain products that it knows it can get good return from. But in a campaign that only exists zero-click products, it's going to have to start giving some impressions and clicks to those. So this is a good way to just get some impressions and clicks on products that historically, when they were lumped in with a bunch of other products, got no love. Now you're going to be able to give them some love and see if they'll work out for you. Then we have query sculpting. So if you look at any of our accounts that we're not running Performance Max campaigns on for whatever reason, then a lot of times we're running a query sculpted structure. And I'm going to get into the details of that further. But query sculpting is not something I created. This was introduced by a guy named Martin, and I'm going to butcher his last name, so I'm not even going to try. But I'm going to have his blog post. This is from 2014, so this is a long time ago. I remember when this came out, though, so it shows you how long I've been in this game, too. But he had this brilliant idea when it came to sculpting the traffic of your shopping campaigns. And so again, his blog post will be linked here. I want to give this guy a lot of credit for this, because I did not create this. But basically, What query sculpting does, it's a structure, and it allows you to bid higher on higher intent terms. Because with shopping, you can't like put keywords in like you do search ads, right? And so query sculpting allows you to kind of control that, because we know if someone types in men's size 10 Nike React running shoe, they're more likely to convert, and you're more likely to get a higher return due to that high conversion, due to that high intent search, versus someone who types in running shoe, right? Someone typing in running shoe, that's as broad as you can get, aside from just typing in shoe. At least they're telling you they're looking for running shoes, but they don't even know what they want yet, right? Someone who's saying, I want a men's size 10 Nike React running shoe, knows exactly what they want. They just need to find that product and have a good user experience to be able to make that purchase. Well, if you're just running one standard shopping campaign, you have no control of that, right? Your bids are going to be basically set up the same for running shoe as it is for that specific search of the Nike React men's size 10 running shoe. When you query sculpt though, you now have control over those search terms. Okay, so here is an image from Martin. This was in his presentation. And so again, I did not create this image. This was Martin's creation. But this gives you an idea of how this campaign query sculpt structure works. So you're gonna have a campaign for your products. And what that means is in this campaign, you're only showing for product searches. Then you're gonna have one for brands, and then you're gonna have one called REST or others or generic, however you want to label that. People label it differently, but basically these are gonna be broad searches. So to give you an example, this would be running shoes. Those searches would fall into this campaign. Nike running shoes would fall into the brand campaign, and then Nike men's size 10 React running shoes would fall into the product campaign, because that's someone who knows exactly the product that they're looking for. Here they know what brand they're looking for. Here they have no idea. They're so far up the funnel, they're just looking for running shoes. Then there's priority levels to that. I'm gonna show you a real example inside of a real account, so don't get too caught up on that yet. And then you're utilizing negative keywords, okay? So this is how you funnel the traffic. So on your generic campaign, you're negating all product specific terms and brands. So in the Nike example, Nike would have been excluded from this REST, and then Nike React is the product specific in that example, would also be negated. So that way, no brands or products are showing here. It's just gonna be generic terms. Then you're gonna have in your brand campaign, you want to negate your product specific terms. That way they're typing in Nike running shoes, but if they type in Nike React being the specific product running shoes, React would be a negative keyword, and that funnels it into the product campaign. So you're funneling or sculpting the search terms there. Then your bids, generally, you're gonna be low bids on the general terms. Obviously, you don't wanna bid as high for running shoes as you would for men's size 10 Nike React running shoes due to the conversion rate differences there. So by doing this structure, you have the ability to bid extremely high and very aggressive and competitive on those high intent search terms, and then gives you the ability to bid low on those generic broad terms. And then in the middle, for your brand terms, you're generally going to have higher bids than the rest, but probably not as high as those product specific brands. Okay, to make all of this work though, you have to be in a shared budget. This is where it breaks for a lot of people. They either break the priority levels or they break the budgets. So if you don't use a shared budget, what happens is one of these campaigns will get capped out by budget throughout the day, and then that breaks everything, and then keywords start funneling into the different campaigns. Okay, that might be confusing. I'm gonna jump into a real account with a real query sculpted structure, and hopefully that brings more clarity to you. Okay, I'm inside of an actual account, and you'll see I've got 3 shopping campaigns set up here. So ResMed is a brand. It's for like CPAP supplies. And you'll see I have ResMed PSQ, ResMed GSQ, ResMed BSQ. What this stands for: GSQ stands for general search queries. So going back to that image I just showed you that Martin did in his presentation, he called those REST. We call them general search queries. So in here, when I show you, the search queries inside of that campaign are going to be very generic. Then BSQ stands for brand search queries. Here would just be ResMed related keywords that we're showing for. Then PSQ is going to be product specific search queries. And lo and behold, if you look at the results, we're getting 2.91. I can't show you the actual costs and revenue, so that's going to be blurred out. I don't want to give too much just in case a competitor or something is watching this video. So cost and revenue will be blurred out. But I want to let you know, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars here. So this is not a small amount of money. And that's going to be represented by, you can see that we've had a lot of clicks there, right? So, but what I really want to show you is conversion rate. So conversion rate will not be blurred out. My conversion rate on product search queries, 5.87. My ROAS, 2.91. For brand, my conversion rate, 3%. My ROAS, this is an odd case. It's actually a tad lower than our general one. You normally don't see that. General is usually going to have a bit lower return on ad spend. But in this case, still pretty good, but not as high as the product search query ones. And you'll notice our conversion rate still is 3% compared to 2% from the general search queries, but not as high as that 6% that we're getting from our product search queries. And then GSQ, so general search queries. Here, lowest conversion rate, but we're still getting a decent return out of those terms. We also have the lowest click-through rate there as well. Again, these are going to be generic searches, but it just goes to show you the real results of this structure. We are maximizing and having very high conversion rates, very high return on ad spend from our product search queries. So we're trying to maximize our exposure there. And then general is kind of the lower end. We're getting low conversion rates there. That makes sense because those are just very generic searches that people are searching. So let's hop in and we're going to start with generic. So inside of this generic campaign, I'm going to go to the settings to show you priority level real quick. You'll notice the priority level is high. Well, why? And this is where people get stumped. Why is the priority level high on the general search query campaign? You would think like, wait a second, I don't want this one to be the high. This is going to be my least performing campaign out of this query sculpt structure. Here's the reason. You set this to high because this is the first campaign you want Google to first go to. Then remember, we're using negative keywords. So in this case, I have my product keywords as a negative keyword list. I have those negated. And then I also have my brand keywords. So those brand terms are in here as well. That's negated from this campaign. So what I'm telling Google is come to this campaign first, but due to my negative keywords, if the search query contains ResMed or the search query contains the product that they're looking for, that's a ResMed product, then it gets filtered. And then what Google will do is go down the line. So then the next campaign for that ResMed search term, they would go into the brand campaign because this, let me show you, is going to be set to a priority of medium. So if it gets filtered from the general campaign because the term that they searched is negated there, then they get filtered to the second campaign priority, which is medium. Again, if it's a product related search that they're searching, that negative keyword is already applied product words. We have a negative list. So then it gets filtered from this campaign, and Google would go down the line to our next campaign and the last campaign, which is our product search query campaign. This then is set to low. And that is how the filtration works with priority levels. So that's why negative keywords and priority levels are very key to making the structure work correctly so it doesn't break. And in my general, let's go into the general. If I look at search terms, you'll notice what's showing: CPAP hose, water chamber, CPAP supplies, CPAP nasal pillows, CPAP supplies, yada, yada, etc. These are all extremely broad generic terms. Then let's go into our brand search query. What do you see? We see ResMed water chamber, ResMed CPAP nose mask, ResMed CPAP mask, ResMed nasal pillows, etc. So these searches are just like the Nike example. It would be like Nike running shoes. So they know what brand they're looking for. They just don't know the exact product number or name yet. Then if I go into the product search query here and I go to search terms, look at this. ResMed AirFit P10. This is someone that knows exactly what they're looking for. ResMed P10, AirFit N30i. So this doesn't even include the brand ResMed in it. It doesn't need to, because if they're searching for, it'd just be like someone searching for React running shoes. They already know in their head it's a Nike. They're just putting it in the React part of that. And so that's why these searches are being funneled there, again, from the negative keyword list that we're using in the brand search query and generic or general search query campaigns. So here we've got all product specific searches, and that is why we have a conversion rate that's almost 6% on this campaign, and we can bid extremely aggressively on this campaign, and we can eke out a still really, really good ROAS. So that is a breakdown of how query sculpting works. Again, one thing you need to remember, you'll notice I'm using a shared budget here. So this is called US ResMed shopping. That's just how we set up the shared budget. How you would set up a shared budget, you're gonna go to tools and settings, and then you're gonna go to shared budgets under your shared library. And then you're going to create a new budget and you're gonna give it a name. So we'll just do ResMed shared, and then give it the budget that you want to spend. Remember, on a shared budget, you're kind of combining the campaigns into one, at least from the budget standpoint. So if I give it $100 as a collective group of 3 campaigns, it's only going to spend $100. So just remember that. So in this case, we'll put 1,000 because we've got kind of unlimited budget on this one. And then that has been created. Well, now I need to go in here and actually apply it to campaigns. So you would go to apply budget, and then you would go pick the campaigns that you want to apply that budget to. So very simple to set up. Why is shared budget absolutely necessary? Because, to give you an example, if let's say in the case that one of these campaigns, let's say they were all on individual budgets, we'll call it $100 a day a piece, right? But let's say during the day, my general search query campaign hits the budget. So it hits $100 before the day's done. Guess where those general search queries are now going to start flowing into? Well, it's going to go by priority. So now it's going to go to medium priority, which would be my brand search queries. So now in my brand search query campaign, I no longer just have brand terms. I'm going to get all this generic stuff that we wanted funneled here. Well, to prevent that, you have to use the shared budget. That way there is no budget caps. Then Google starts looking at funneling that traffic over. Hopefully that makes sense. But just remember, campaign priority is key. Negative keywords are key. Shared budgets are key in order to make query sculpting structure work. All right, bidding and budgets. I have a complete masterclass on bidding that video is something you should absolutely go check out. The video will be in the description below. But just know this, with budgets, you should be allocating in a manner that you do not limit your best sellers. So that goes back up to campaign structure. But I can't tell you how many audits I've done. Best sellers are being limited by budgets, and they have like 5 different campaigns running and they all have the same budget. And it's like, why are you running the same budget for all those campaigns when your best sellers are lumped into this one campaign and they're completely limited? You would be better off actually maximizing those best sellers and allocating most of the budget there than trying to run all these separate campaigns with the same budgets. So just remember, maximize those best sellers as much as you can, and budget allocation is key to making that happen. Then when you're query sculpting, as I mentioned, as going through the query sculpting structure, you're gonna wanna use the shared budgets there with those campaign splits. And then for bidding, if you're just starting out, I usually will start with manual CPC, or I will test a TROAS with a very, very small bid to it. Then once I get conversion volume, because the goal is to get that conversion volume coming in, then I start flicking over to a TROAS goal that is aligned with my historical average of that campaign. So let's say over 30 days, I had 50 conversions and I hit like a 300% ROAS. Well, even if my goal is a 500% ROAS for the campaign, I'm only historically hitting a 300. So just to get over to utilizing smart bidding, I would flick over to a TROAS of 300%, not 5. Because if you go to 500%, too soon, you can suffocate the account because Google's like, wait a second, I don't know how to get you 5. We've only been getting 3. So what you do is you use the average that you've been getting, so 300% in that example, then you slowly work the bid up to your goal. Again, all of that is broken down in that bidding video. It's a huge video. I have a cheat sheet for bidding strategies there, so I don't want to go too crazy. This video will be long enough, so I don't want to go too crazy on the bidding. Go check that video out to learn more about bid strategies. But just remember, if you're just starting out, you usually start with manual CPC, or you can test TROAS, but you're going to want to test a small ROAS target, something like 100% or less, because your goal in the beginning is to get the volume. So you got to get clicks and impressions, and then you want to get conversion volume coming in. Your goal then is to get that 30 to 50 conversions, then flick over to smart bidding, but you can only flick over to smart bidding at a TROAS that you're historically hitting. Then you work your way to eventually your goal. Okay, negative keywords. Guess what? I have an entire video on negative keywords, how to find them, how to add them, utilizing negative keyword lists. So I'm not going to go too crazy on showing you negative keywords. Just remember, review the search queries and your shopping campaign and add negative keywords that are irrelevant to exclude traffic that you would not want to be getting, or to exclude your product ads showing for traffic that you don't want to show for. All right, excluding poor performing products. This is something, for whatever reason, people just forget to do. So like, hey, well, I have 100,000 products in my feed. I'm just going to continue to advertise 100,000 products. And then you look at some of the data historically and you're like, this product has never done anything for you. Why do you continue to advertise it? You can exclude poor performing products. So this is something that we have as an SOP here at Grow My Ads, but this is something that you should absolutely be looking at doing. You don't want to exclude poor performers without a lot of data though. You are gonna want a lot of data and feel absolutely 100% confident this is a poor performer. But going in, exclude those poor performers from your campaigns. That way you're no longer bidding on them, can absolutely save you money. And then again, now your full ad spend budget is being maximized towards what is going to generate you good revenue. However, here's what I like to do with poor performing products. First, I analyze, why are they poor performing? So then I take a look, is there any errors with that product inside of our feed? Is the title optimized? Going back to the number one thing we talked about in this video, which is optimization of the feed. Is my title optimized? Can I work on optimizing that better? Is my price competitive? Well, okay, if your price is double what other competitors are selling the product for, you're absolutely going to lose. So you shouldn't be advertising that product. No one's going to buy from you. And so making sure, is my price competitive? And then also, is there a seasonal dip? Is this a product that just doesn't do well during the season, but come winter, spring, fall, whatever type of product this is, it actually gets lift. So you're going to want to review different time frames if you feel this could be a seasonal dip on this poor performing product. So that is why I don't jump the gun early on excluding products. In fact, I'm probably way too conservative on it. And I'm looking at lots of data on that product, and I'm looking at lots of different time frames of that product. Because if the product did well before, then it's not potentially a poor performer. It's potentially an issue that I'm asking those key questions on. However, if the product just has never done well, and I've looked at lots of different time frames and it's just a loser, then I am absolutely going to look at excluding that. It doesn't make sense to spend one more penny on traffic from Google Ads that just doesn't generate any revenue. Now, there is one other technique that I like to do. This is yielding to the conservative side of trying to pray that, can I get this thing to work? So one thing that I do, if I have budget to spare, is I will test taking products that I'm about to exclude. So these would be absolute loser products, and I isolate them in their own shopping campaign. That shopping campaign, the only thing that would exist in there are these loser products that I was going to exclude. I give them some small bids, and I just see, can I get them to work if I isolate them? I have had products that I've revived by doing that. I don't know why, but sometimes isolating those products and then giving them some love just inside that isolated campaign, along with just a bunch of other loser products, gives them some hope, I guess. And, you're looking at the data and some of them start to take off. Then what I'll do, if they get revived, right? Performance looks okay. Then I move them back into my standard shopping campaign structure, but not in this loser. I don't let them just live there forever in that loser campaign. If they don't perform well in this last resort loser campaign, then just exclude them, make a note. Hey, this product has never done well. We gave it an opportunity in the last resort loser campaign, and it still didn't do well. Never spend another dime on that product. So be looking at excluding poor performing products. Don't be too aggressive on that though. Yield to being conservative, yield to trying to make it work, yield to isolating them and seeing if you can, in that last resort campaign, if you can get some success out of them. So don't just go in there and go trigger happy on excluding poor performing products, because sometimes those products actually do okay, and they were limited due to the campaigns they were living in, or they were limited due to the fact that they weren't optimized as well as they should have been. All right, performance monitoring. So there's different reports and metrics I like to look at when it comes to being able to optimize my shopping campaigns. So first, performance metrics. When reviewing the performance of your shopping campaigns and products, your usual metrics are still going to be used. That's like clicks and click-through rate and average CPC, conversion rate, your conversion value by cost, which would be your return on ad spend, etc. However, shopping campaigns have unique metrics that you can review, and they'll give you some further insights. So some of those key metrics are search impression share, click share, benchmark CPC, benchmark CTR, click-through rate. So let me hop into a real campaign and show you what those are. So I'm in a actual account and I'm at the product group level of the campaign. And here we have search impression share. So search impression share is simply the impressions you received on Google search divided by the number of impressions you were eligible to receive. So in this case, a lot of these products that I'm looking at, I'm in like a 70% search impression share. That is really high for Google Shopping. And so I'm pleased by that number. The lower that search impression number is, the more concerned I get. Now, ultimately, you are advertising to make profitability or whatever your goal is. So a lot of times you're not bidding towards impression share. You're using impression share to gauge whether or not you have opportunity to continue to grow, or if you're already hitting most of the search queries within the market that you're in for those products. If I'm looking at a shopping campaign and I'm seeing a high return on ad spend, but low search impression share. So if I'm looking at a campaign that, let's say, is below 50% on search impression share, but the performance is good, I'm coming back to that client and I'm saying there is absolute room to grow. You just are going to need to spend a little more, but you're showing for less than half of the impressions. Now, on search, you absolutely, if you're very aggressive, depending again on your goal, but on search, for your kingmaker money-making keywords, it's likely you're seeing very high impression share of 80%, 90%. That does happen. On shopping, it's very, very rare to see 80 to 90% impression shares. So anything above 50%, usually I'm pleased with. Anything below 50% means there's room for growth as long as you're hitting, your return on ad spend goal. Then you have click share. So click share just says, click share is the clicks you've received on the search network divided by the estimated maximum number of clicks that you could have received. So how often your product is clicked depends on your ads, targeting settings, budget, approval status, and the quality of your product data. So here I've got, high impression shares, but my click shares, I'm getting to for this specific product, I'm getting 25% of the clicks. It's actually pretty good. So if you think about it, I had a 73% impression share. And this is for shopping. So I'm hitting a really high amount of the impressions that would be eligible to fire this specific product ad. And I took 25% of the clicks in that market. That's pretty high. Don't go too far down the rabbit hole with click share. But in this example, I'm pleased with that number. Obviously, the higher the click share number, if you're hitting a return, the better. But you're not going to get, click-through rates are usually relatively on the lower end on shopping ads compared to high intent search campaigns. So you're not going to get 80% click share. That's just impossible. So don't go too crazy with click share, but this is a metric that I do look at. Then benchmark max CPC. This is letting me know, all right, what's my average CPC? And then what's the benchmark? I'll say this for the millionth time in this video. Normally, you're not bidding towards any of these metrics. You're bidding towards your profitability goal. But I do like to look at benchmark max CPC, because if my average CPCs are too low, then this is showing, okay, I'm not being as competitive as I should be. And that's probably why certain other metrics might be down. However, if my average CPC is way high compared to the benchmark, then maybe I'm being overly aggressive with my bidding. So I use that benchmark max CPC to understand sort of what the competitive landscape is according to Google. Google does reflect this data in your account 1 to 2 days after the auction takes place. So this is pretty relatively real-time data that Google is giving you. All right, benchmark click-through rate, just like benchmark CPC. This is just telling you what the benchmark click-through rate is based off of the data that Google has. Again, this is going to be relatively real-time, 1 to 2 days after the auction takes place. So this is pretty updated. Gives you a good idea, is my click-through rate competitive with what Google is saying the benchmark is in the market? Okay, then you've got Merchant Center reports. Merchant Center is where your product feed lives. Guess what? I have an entire video on 4 secret Merchant Center reports that I like to use. You can go check that out. But those are shopping experience scorecard, price competitiveness, competitive visibility, and promotions. These are reports that I like to look at to gauge how my products are doing, especially this price competitiveness. Price is everything. In fact, it's the number one thing that I put in the product feed optimization. That's the biggest needle mover. Doesn't matter how great your product images are, how great your website is, if your price is more expensive by usually 10% or more than competitors, the shopper will end up usually buying from the cheapest solution. So price is absolutely everything. Price competitiveness report will give you a complete breakdown of your products and what the benchmark prices are within that industry. So that's a very, very good report. I don't want to go too deep into this because, these reports are a full video already, which I've already done for you. So again, this video will be in the description below. Go check that out if you want to learn more about what key merchant center reports I use in order to help guide me in my optimizations within my shopping campaigns. Then Auction Insights report. Auction Insight report will give you some competitor data. I have, once again, a complete YouTube video on the Google Ads Auction Insight report. In the case study I use in that video, it is for a search campaign or search campaigns, but you can look at Auction Insight report for shopping campaigns as well. Let me just show you briefly. Okay, so here I'm inside of a shopping campaign. If you go to Insights and Reports, you can go to Auction Insights and then just make sure you flick on, it usually defaults to search for some reason. Just make sure you flick it over to shopping. This will give you competitor data. So impression share, overlap rate, outranking share. Again, this is a full video. I don't want to go too deep into each one of these metrics in this video. Just know I use Auction Insights. I'm reviewing that. I'm seeing what competitor data looks like within the Auction Insight report. Go check out that YouTube video I already did on it, Auction Insight report, to understand what metrics I'm looking at. But remember, in that video, it was based off search campaigns, but you can get the same data for your shopping campaigns. Okay, then I have to throw this in here, Performance Max campaigns. You're probably thinking, wait, hold on. What do you mean this is a part of your optimization for standard shopping campaigns? Well, if you haven't tested Performance Max campaigns, then this is absolutely an optimization for your shopping ads. We have found that around 70 to 80% of the time now, we're getting better performance lift from Performance Max campaigns. I have a complete, I think this is 2.5 hours or something crazy, Performance Max course for free on our YouTube channel. I will have that video in the description below, breaking down everything you need to know about Performance Max campaigns, from setup, fundamentals to optimizations. However, we utilize a lot of a hybrid method. And so to give you a quick example of that, remember I talked about in this video, you really should be maximizing your best sellers. Well, after a while, we will start testing moving our best sellers into a Performance Max campaign, and then the rest of those products will be in a standard shopping campaign. That is if we're not fully moved over to Performance Max. Again, in the Performance Max course, I give a complete campaign structure breakdown from advanced to simple. This would be like a simple structure here. So there are accounts though that we're not running all Performance Max campaigns. We are, especially in our smaller spending e-commerce accounts, we are though running like a hybrid approach. So we'll move, instead of running a best sellers standard shopping campaign, and then the rest of those products are segmented out in other standard shopping campaigns, depending on the structure that we went with, we would be running a best sellers Performance Max campaign. So all those best selling products get moved into a Performance Max campaign. Then we run the rest of the products in a standard shopping campaign structure. Now, in this image, it looks like there's just two campaigns. This could be broken out by different brands or categories. So we could have a Performance Max LG bestsellers campaign, and then we would have a standard shopping campaign with all our other LG products there. Then we could have a bestsellers Samsung Performance Max campaign, and then we would have a standard shopping Samsung campaign. It just depends on, again, the account size, how many SKUs, how many categories, how many brands. So there is no universal one size fits all. However, if you're lower spender, and that could be, a few thousand, $10,000, per month, then normally consolidation's key a lot of times. So normally I simplify it, run a bestsellers PMAX campaign, and then just have everything else grouped into your standard shopping campaign and break it out then by the product ad groups. But I just wanted to make sure I clarified, I'm not saying I'm only running 2 campaigns always. If I have an account that spends hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, they've got lots of different brands, lots of different categories, our structure gets more advanced. I simplify that structure though if they're lower spenders, because budget allocation is key then to maximizing those best sellers. And you can't do that if your budget's small and you have 50 campaigns. So less is more usually. Only go advanced if you have lots of SKUs and lots of money that you're spending on your Google Ads account. But make sure, check out the Performance Max course. If you haven't tested Performance Max campaigns yet and you are running shopping ads, give it a try. You can be conservative about it, but give it a test. Again, we have seen about 70 to 80% of the time we do get better lift from running Performance Max campaigns over standard shopping. But if you went and looked at our e-commerce client portfolio, we usually are running some form of a hybrid approach. Hybrid meaning we've got PMAX campaigns, and then we're also running some form of standard shopping campaigns for those other products that are either low or mid performers, or an isolated segmented shopping campaign for products that we are testing that we don't want to throw into our normal campaign structure breakout. There you go. If you made it through the whole video and your brain hasn't exploded yet, congratulations. I know there was a lot there, and I hope it wasn't too confusing on some of those parts. There's just a lot to talk about when it comes to optimizing shopping campaigns, and some of it gets into the weeds like query sculpting, campaign structures, and everything else. With that said, I hope you got great value from this. If you have questions, put them in the comments below. I will do my best to answer those if I know the answer to those questions. I hope you make some money implementing some of these recommendations, and I will see you on the next video.